The emergency room at St. Mary's Hospital was quieter than usual for a Thursday night. I'd just finished stitching up a construction worker who'd had an unfortunate encounter with a nail gun when my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed my wife's sister, Rebecca. "Grant, we need to talk." Rebecca's voice was sharp, cutting through the ambient noise of the ER like a scalpel. "It's about Lena." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stepped into the supply closet, closing the door behind me. After 12 years as a paramedic and 5 years married to Lena, I'd learned that conversations starting with "we need to talk" never ended well. "What's going on, Rebecca?" "She told me what you did? How could you embarrass her like that at Mom's birthday party, in front of everyone?" I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. The birthday party had been 3 days ago, and I'd been waiting for this call. "What exactly did she tell you I did?" "Don't play dumb with me. You know exactly what you did." Questioning her in front of the whole family about money, making her look like some kind of criminal. The memory came flooding back. Lena's mother had been showing off a new diamond bracelet, gushing about how Lena had surprised her with it. The problem was, I knew our bank account better than anyone, and we definitely didn't have $1,500 for jewelry. When I'd quietly asked Lena about it later, she'd exploded. "Rebecca, I asked her a simple question about where the money came from. That's not unreasonable." "You humiliated her. She was crying for hours after you left. Mom thinks you're controlling her finances." "Controlling?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I work 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat while she spends money we don't have. How is asking about a $1,500 purchase controlling?" "Maybe if you made more money, she wouldn't have to worry about every little thing she buys." The words hit like a physical blow. Rebecca had always looked down on me, but she'd never been this direct about it. In her world of real estate deals and country club memberships, a paramedic's salary was barely worth mentioning. "Every little thing? Rebecca, we're behind on our mortgage. I've been picking up extra shifts just to keep the lights on." "Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you married above your station." The line went silent. I stared at my phone, Rebecca's words echoing in my head. "Married above my station." As if Lena was some kind of prize I didn't deserve. My partner, Jake Morrison, poked his head into the supply closet. "You okay in there? We've got another call coming in." "Yeah, I'm fine." I shoved the phone back into my pocket and followed Jake to the ambulance. But I wasn't fine. As we drove through the familiar streets of our small Connecticut town, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. Rebecca's call wasn't just about the birthday party, it was a declaration of war. When I got home at 2 a.m, Lena was waiting for me in the kitchen. She sat at our small dining table, still in her work clothes from the department store where she managed the jewelry counter. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her blue eyes were red-rimmed from crying. "We need to talk," she said, echoing her sister's words from earlier. "Let me guess. Rebecca called you. She's worried about me, about us." Lena's voice was soft, vulnerable in a way that used to make me want to protect her. Now it just made me tired. I sat down across from her, noting the stack of credit card bills she'd arranged on the table like evidence in a trial. "What's all this?" "Our debt, Grant. All of it. Do you see what we're dealing with here?" I picked up the first bill. Nordstrom. $1,800. The second was from a jewelry store downtown. $2,200. The third was a credit card I didn't even know existed. "Lena, what the hell is this?" We agreed no more credit cards. "I needed these things for work. You don't understand the pressure I'm under to look professional." "Professional?" I held up the Nordstrom bill. "This is for a purse that costs more than our car payment." "You don't get it. You never get it." She stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked our small backyard. "I have to maintain an image. My clients expect a certain level of sophistication." "Your clients are buying jewelry at a department store, not shopping for houses in Beverly Hills." She whirled around, and for a moment I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Contempt. Pure, undiluted contempt. "This is exactly what Rebecca said would happen. You'd make me feel guilty for trying to better myself." "Better yourself?" "Lena, we're drowning in debt. I'm working doubles just to pay the minimum on cards I didn't even know existed. Maybe if you had more ambition, I wouldn't have to worry about money all the time." There it was again. The suggestion that I wasn't good enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't man enough for her. I'd heard variations of it from Rebecca for years, but hearing it from Lena felt like betrayal. "I save lives for a living. I'm sorry if that doesn't come with a 6-figure salary." "Don't be dramatic. You drive an ambulance and put bandages on people." The casual dismissal of my career, my calling, hit harder than any physical blow could have. I'd met Lena during one of the worst nights of her life, when her father had a heart attack and I was part of the team that saved him. She used to tell people I was her hero. When did I become the enemy, Lena? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she gathered up the bills, holding them against her chest like armor. When you stopped supporting my dreams and started trying to control my life. What dreams? You manage a jewelry counter at a department store. See? That's exactly what I mean. You have no vision, no ambition. Rebecca says I'm wasting my potential staying married to someone who doesn't appreciate what I could become. And what's that exactly? What could you become that you can't become with me? Happy? The word hung in the air between us like smoke. I could see in her face that she meant it, that whatever we'd built together over 5 years of marriage had crumbled without me even noticing. So what do you want to do about it? I think we should separate, just for a while. Give each other some space to figure things out. I nodded slowly, feeling strangely calm. Where will you go? Rebecca said I could stay with her until we work things out. Of course she did. Rebecca lived in a sprawling colonial in the wealthy part of town, complete with a 3-car garage and a pool. It would be like a vacation for Lena, funded by Rebecca's real estate empire. And the bills? We'll figure it out. No, Lena, there is no we anymore, remember? These are your bills. You figure it out. Her face flushed red. You can't just abandon your responsibilities. Watch me. 3 weeks after Lena moved in with Rebecca, I learned just how deep the conspiracy against me ran. It started with a phone call from my longtime friend, Brad Cole, who worked as a loan officer at the local bank. Grant, we need to talk. Can you meet me for lunch? We met at Rosie's Diner, a place where Brad and I had been grabbing burgers since high school. But when I walked in, I found Brad sitting with 2 other people, Sarah Williams and Tom Bradley, both part of our old college crowd. Sarah worked as a nurse at the hospital where I picked up patients, and Tom was a police officer with the local department. This feels like an intervention, I said, sliding into the booth across from them. Maybe it is, Sarah said. She looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. We're worried about you. Worried how? Tom leaned forward, his cop instincts making him take the lead. Lena came to see me yesterday. She's scared, Grant. Scared of what? You. She says you've been harassing her, following her around town, making threats. I stared at him, trying to process what I was hearing. That's complete bullshit, and you know it. Is it? Brad pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of a text message. She showed us this. The message appeared to be from my phone number. You can't hide from me forever. We're going to settle this one way or another. I never sent that text. Grant, it's from your phone, Sarah said gently. The timestamp shows it was sent at 2 a.m. last Tuesday. I grabbed the phone, studying the message. The number was definitely mine, but I'd never sent anything like that. Last Tuesday at 2 a.m, I'd been at work, responding to a 3-car accident on Route 9. This is fake. Someone spoofed my number. Come on, man, Tom said. Who would do that? Rebecca, Lena, I don't know, but I didn't send this. The 3 of them exchanged glances, the kind of look people share when they are dealing with someone they think is losing his mind. Grant, maybe you should talk to someone, Sarah suggested. A counselor or... I don't need a counselor. I need friends who believe me when I tell them the truth. We want to believe you, Brad said. But Lena showed us other things, too. Photos of her car with scratches on it, a brick thrown through Rebecca's window. And you think I did that? You've been angry, Tom said. Really angry. We've all seen it. Of course I'm angry. My wife cleaned out our bank account and moved in with her sister, who's been trying to break us up for years. But that doesn't make me a stalker. She also told us about the credit cards, Sarah added. How you've been threatening to ruin her credit if she doesn't come back to you. I laughed, but it came out bitter and harsh. The credit cards she opened without telling me? The ones that are about to bankrupt us both? Yeah, I told her she needs to take responsibility for her own debt. That's not a threat, it's reality. Look, we're not taking sides, Brad said, though his tone suggested otherwise. We just think maybe you should give her some space. Stop trying to contact her. I haven't been trying to contact her. I haven't called, texted, or gone anywhere near Rebecca's house. Then explain the messages, Tom challenged. I can't explain them because I didn't send them, but I can tell you where I was last Tuesday at 2 a.m. I was working a car accident with Jake Morrison. Check the ambulance logs. Tom made a note in his phone. I'll look into it. But I could tell he didn't believe me. None of them did. Somehow, in the 3 weeks since Lena left, I'd become the villain in a story I didn't even understand. What did she promise you? I asked. What do you mean? Sarah frowned. Lena and Rebecca. What did they promise you in exchange for this little intervention? Rebecca's got connections all over town. She could help Brad with loan approvals, get Tom promoted, maybe put in a word for Sarah at the private hospital across town. That's paranoid thinking, Grant, Brad said, but he couldn't quite meet my eyes. Is it? Because 3 weeks ago, you all knew me well enough to know I'd never stalk my ex-wife. Now suddenly you're convinced I'm some kind of dangerous lunatic based on text messages that could have been faked by anyone with a computer. I stood up, throwing a 20 on the table. When you figure out you've been played, you know where to find me. As I walked out of the diner, I heard Sarah call my name, but I didn't turn around. I was done trying to convince people who'd already made up their minds. 2 days later, I was loading supplies into the ambulance when Sarah approached me in the hospital parking lot. She looked nervous, glancing around as if she was afraid someone might see us talking. Grant, wait. I need to tell you something. I kept loading equipment, not looking at her. If it's another message from Lena, I'm not interested. Tom checked the ambulance logs. You were telling the truth about Tuesday night. That got my attention. I straightened up, studying her face. And? The text message was sent from a spoofing app. Someone used your number to make it look like you sent it. Did you tell Brad and Tom? She nodded. Tom's looking into it, but there's something else. Rebecca offered me a job. When? The day before we met you at the diner. Head of nursing at the new private clinic she's investing in. 50% pay increase. I felt a cold satisfaction at being right, but it was overshadowed by anger at how easily my friends had been bought. Are you going to take it? I don't know. Grant, I'm sorry. We should have believed you. Yes, you should have. The question now is what you're going to do about it. Before Sarah could answer, I saw a familiar figure walking across the parking lot. Rebecca, dressed in an expensive business suit, heading straight for us. Grant, she called out, her voice carrying across the parking lot. We need to talk. No, we don't. She reached us, slightly out of breath, but still managing to look perfectly composed. I think there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is that I ever thought you'd treat me with basic human decency. I'm trying to protect my sister. From what? From being held accountable for her own choices? Rebecca glanced at Sarah, clearly uncomfortable having this conversation in front of a witness. Could we have some privacy? Sarah can stay. She's already heard your sales pitch anyway. What's that supposed to mean? The job offer. The one that came right before she and our other friends decided I was a dangerous stalker. Rebecca's face flushed, but she recovered quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Just like you don't know anything about the fake text messages or the mysterious damage to Lena's car. Are you accusing me of... I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm stating facts. You've been trying to break up my marriage since day one, and now that you've succeeded, you're trying to destroy my reputation too. Your marriage was broken long before I got involved. Lena was miserable. Lena was fine until you started filling her head with ideas about how she deserved better than a paramedic's salary. She does deserve better. She's beautiful, intelligent, sophisticated. She could have married anyone. But she married me, and that's what really bothers you, isn't it? That your sister chose someone you consider beneath her. Rebecca stepped closer, her mask of civility finally slipping. You're damn right it bothers me. I watched her settle for less when she could have had everything. Everything like what? A husband who treats her like a trophy instead of a partner? A husband who can provide for her properly, who can give her the life she deserves. The life you think she deserves. Did you ever ask what she actually wanted? I didn't have to ask. I could see how unhappy she was. She was unhappy because you made her unhappy. Every family gathering, every phone call, every conversation was about how she could do better, how she was wasting her potential, how I wasn't good enough for her. Sarah was watching this exchange like a tennis match, her head turning back and forth between us. I could see the realization dawning on her face as she understood the scope of Rebecca's manipulation. You're being dramatic, Rebecca said, but her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Let me ask you something. What happens when Lena realizes that being single isn't the fairy tale you promised her? When she figures out that her problems weren't caused by being married to me, but by listening to you? That won't happen. Won't it? Because I know Lena better than you think I do. She's not as strong as you are. She needs someone to take care of her, to make her feel secure. How long do you think she'll be happy living in your guest room, depending on your charity? Rebecca's composure cracked completely. At least she won't be trapped with someone who has no ambition, no drive, no future. There it is. The truth. This was never about Lena's happiness. It was about your embarrassment at having a paramedic for a brother-in-law. You're goddamn right it was. Do you have any idea how humiliating it is to explain to my friends and clients that my sister is married to someone who makes $30,000 a year? Sarah gasped at the venom in Rebecca's voice, but I just smiled. Finally, the mask was off. How much did it cost you? I asked. What? To buy my friends. The job offer for Sarah, whatever you promised Brad and Tom. How much did it cost to turn them against me? I didn't have to buy them. They could see what kind of person you really are. Based on evidence you fabricated. I didn't fabricate anything. The text messages were sent from a spoofing app. The damage to Lena's car happened in your driveway, where you have security cameras that could prove I was never there. The brick through your window probably came from your own garden. Rebecca's face went pale. You can't prove any of that. I don't have to prove it. You just did. She looked confused, then followed my gaze to Sarah, who was holding up her phone. I've been recording this whole conversation, Sarah said quietly. Every word. Rebecca's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. You can't. That's illegal. Actually, it's not, I said. Connecticut is a one-party consent state. Sarah can record any conversation she's part of. Delete it. Delete it right now. No, Sarah said firmly. I think Brad and Tom need to hear this. And maybe Lena too. Rebecca lunged for the phone, but I stepped between them. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Assault charges would really complicate your real estate license. She stood there for a moment, breathing hard, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Then she turned and walked away without another word. Jesus, Sarah whispered. I had no idea. Now you do. The question is what you're going to do about it. She looked down at her phone, then back at me. I'm going to make this right. The recording of Rebecca's confession spread through our social circle like wildfire. By the end of the week, Brad and Tom had both called to apologize, and Sarah had turned down Rebecca's job offer. But the real shock came when Lena showed up at my door on Saturday morning. She looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was unwashed and pulled back in a messy bun, and she was wearing sweatpants and an old college t-shirt I recognized from our early dating days. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. Can I come in? I stepped aside, letting her into the house that had been ours until 3 weeks ago. She looked around like she was seeing it for the first time, taking in the changes I'd made since she left. I'd cleaned out her credit cards and bills from the kitchen table, replaced them with my laptop and medical journals. The expensive decorative items she'd insisted on buying were gone, sold to help pay down the debt she'd left behind. It looks different, she said. It looks like I can afford it. She winced at that, but didn't argue. Instead, she sat down on the couch, the same spot where we used to watch movies together on Sunday afternoons. I heard the recording. Which one? The conversation with Rebecca, or the one where you told your friends I was stalking you? Both. She looked up at me, and I could see genuine remorse in her eyes. I'm sorry, Grant. I'm so sorry. For which part? The lies, the debt, or the character assassination? All of it. I know you probably can't forgive me, but I need you to understand. Rebecca convinced me that you were holding me back, that I could be more than what I was. And what did you want to be, Lena? Because I thought you were happy managing the jewelry counter, coming home to our little house, planning for kids someday. I was, or I thought I was. But Rebecca kept showing me all these other possibilities. She said I was too smart and too beautiful to settle for an ordinary life. Our life wasn't ordinary to me. It was everything. She started crying then, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from genuine regret. I know. I threw it all away for some fantasy that didn't even exist. The fantasy existed. It just didn't include me. That's not true. Rebecca said. She said you'd never be able to give me the things I deserved. What things, Lena? What did you need that I couldn't provide? I don't know. That's the problem. I let her convince me I needed things I'd never even thought about before. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, a house in the right neighborhood. None of it mattered until she made it matter. I sat down across from her, maintaining distance, but close enough to see the pain in her face. Why did you let her do it? Because part of me wondered if she was right, if I had settled, if I could do better. And now? Now I know that better isn't about money or status. It's about finding someone who loves you for who you are, not who they think you could become. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the weight of 5 years of marriage and 3 weeks of destruction hanging between us. What do you want, Lena? I want to come home. I want to fix this. It's not that simple. I know, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll get a second job to pay off the credit cards. I'll cut up every card I have. I'll never talk to Rebecca again if that's what you want. It's not about Rebecca. It's about trust. You didn't just leave me, Lena. You tried to destroy me on your way out. You turned our friends against me, made them think I was dangerous. I know. I was angry and hurt. And Rebecca kept telling me you'd try to make me look like the bad guy. She said the best defense was a good offense. So you decided to attack first. It was stupid. It was cruel. I know that now. Do you? Because 3 weeks ago, you looked me in the eye and told me I was the reason you couldn't be happy, that I had no ambition, no vision, no future. Do you remember that? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I remember, and I was wrong. Were you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? I was wrong, Grant, about everything. You're the best man I've ever known, and I threw it away because I let someone else convince me I deserved a different kind of life. What kind of life do you deserve, Lena? The one I had with you, the one I destroyed. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still loved the woman she'd been before Rebecca got her claws into her, but another part of me, the part that had been systematically betrayed and humiliated, wasn't ready to forgive. I need time to think about this. How much time? I don't know, maybe a lot. She nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Can I ask you something? What? Do you think you could ever forgive me? Not now, but someday? I looked at her, this woman I'd loved and married and built a life with, and tried to imagine a future where we could go back to what we'd been. But too much had happened. Too many words had been said. Too many bridges burned. I don't know, I said finally. I honestly don't know. 2 months later, I was working a night shift when Jake got a call that changed everything. We were dispatched to a car accident on the wealthy side of town near Rebecca's neighborhood. When we arrived, I saw a familiar BMW wrapped around a telephone pole. Rebecca was conscious but trapped in the driver's seat, her left leg clearly broken. She was alone in the car, and from the smell of alcohol and the empty wine bottle on the passenger floor, it was obvious she'd been drinking. "Grant," she said when she saw me approaching with the medical kit. "Thank God." I began my assessment, checking for head injuries and internal bleeding. Despite everything she'd done to me, she was still a patient, and I had a job to do. "Can you feel your toes?" I asked, checking her pupils with a pen light. "I think so. My leg hurts like hell." "That's actually a good sign. Jake, we're going to need the jaws of life. The door is completely crushed." As Jake radioed for additional equipment, I continued working on Rebecca, starting an IV and monitoring her vital signs. She was stable, but would need surgery on her leg. "Grant, I need to tell you something," she said as I worked. "Save your strength. We'll have you out of here soon." "No, listen to me. I need you to know I was wrong about you." I glanced up from the IV bag I was hanging. "Rebecca, you're in shock. We can talk about this later." "There might not be a later. I've been drinking too much lately, driving when I shouldn't. This was bound to happen." "Why were you drinking?" "Because I destroyed my sister's marriage for no good reason. Because I turned a good man into an enemy because I was embarrassed by his job. Because I'm a terrible person who ruins everything she touches." The jaws of life arrived, and I had to step back while the fire department cut her out of the car. But her words stayed with me as we loaded her into the ambulance and raced to the hospital. At the ER, as Rebecca was wheeled into surgery, I found Lena in the waiting room. She looked up when she saw me, hope and fear warring in her eyes. "How is she?" "She'll live. Broken leg, some cuts and bruises, but nothing life-threatening." "Thank you for taking care of her even after everything she did." "It's my job." "It's more than that. You're a better person than I am." I sat down beside her, suddenly exhausted. "She was drunk, Lena. Really drunk. This wasn't just an accident." "I know. She's been spiraling since the recording came out. Lost 3 major clients, had to pull out of the clinic investment. She's been drinking and calling me at all hours, crying about how she ruined everything." "Maybe she did. She ruined her own life, yes, but she didn't ruin ours. I did that all by myself." I looked at her, this woman I'd loved and lost and couldn't quite let go of. "What do you want me to say, Lena?" "Nothing. I just want you to know that I understand now. What I gave up, what I threw away, and I want you to know that I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it." "Will you?" "Yes, because I finally figured out what I really wanted, and it was exactly what I had. A man who loved me, a home we built together, a future we were planning. I had everything, and I convinced myself it wasn't enough. Why? Because I was scared. Scared that maybe I wasn't smart enough or interesting enough to deserve happiness. So when Rebecca told me I could do better, part of me believed her because I'd always wondered if you'd eventually figure out you could do better too. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me, and it hit me like a physical blow. You thought I'd leave you. I thought you'd realize you married someone ordinary, someone who peaked in high school and would never be anything more than a department store manager. Lena, I know. You never made me feel that way. But Rebecca did, and I let her voice become louder than yours. We sat in silence for a while, watching the controlled chaos of the emergency room around us. Finally, a doctor emerged from surgery to tell us that Rebecca would be fine, that the operation had gone well, and that she'd be in recovery for several hours. I should go, I said, standing up. Grant, wait. Lena stood too, reaching out but not quite touching me. I know I don't have the right to ask this, but could we try again? Not pick up where we left off, but start over. Date again, get to know each other again, see if we can build something new. I looked at her for a long moment, seeing not the woman who'd betrayed me, but the woman I'd fallen in love with 7 years ago, the one who'd laughed at my terrible jokes and cried during sad movies and talked about the kids we'd have someday. I don't know if I can trust you again. I understand, but maybe trust is something we can build back, one day at a time. And Rebecca? Rebecca is going to get help, real help, not just for the drinking, but for whatever made her so desperate to control my life, and whether she gets better or not, I'm done letting anyone else make decisions about my marriage. What about the debt? I got a second job, nights at the diner downtown. I'm paying off every card, every bill, every penny I spent trying to be someone I'm not. I studied her face, looking for any sign of deception or manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion and regret, and a desperate hope that maybe somehow we could find our way back to each other. One date, I said finally. Dinner at Rosie's Diner, Dutch treat, and we talk about everything, all of it. No secrets, no lies, no editing the truth to make it easier to swallow. Yes, anything. And if at any point I decide this isn't working, it's over. No arguments, no drama, no trying to change my mind. I understand. And no Rebecca. I don't care if she's in the hospital or rehab or on fire. She doesn't get to be part of our lives anymore. Agreed. I looked at her one more time, this woman who'd broken my heart and shattered my trust and somehow still held a piece of my soul. Friday night, 7 o'clock. I'll be there. As I walked away, I heard her call my name one more time. Grant, thank you for giving us a chance. I didn't turn around, but I raised my hand in acknowledgement. Maybe we could find our way back to each other. Maybe trust could be rebuilt and love could be rekindled. Or maybe we'd discover that too much damage had been done, that some bridges couldn't be rebuilt once they'd been burned. But for the first time in months, I had hope. And sometimes hope is enough to start with.